What's up, guys, and welcome back to Beyond the Void Horror Podcast. My name is Alex, and today we're going to be doing a spoiler-free review of a movie that just hit Shudder called Bloodflower. Let's get into it. Now, I just recently watched the trailer for this movie. It's a Malaysian film that is not to be confused with Indonesian films, but I have sort of a soft spot for Indonesian films that, as of lately, have been putting out a lot of really great kind of films that this particular trailer kind of reminded me of. I was curious to see how well this one would fare, and I just went in kind of blind. I didn't watch the full trailer. I just got enough to know, hey, would I like this film? And then I shut it off so that I don't get my opinion kind of blurred by whatever the trailers got to show me. Now, this is a movie that was directed by Dane Said, who actually has done other films that are kind of within this sort of realm of genre films, and he has done a couple of extra sort of action films as well. This is a supernatural film that is dealing specifically with a young boy named Iqbal, whose mother has just recently passed away, dying to some evil spirits. She had these sort of psychic powers that she was able to exorcise demons and see spirits and sort of be a help to the people around her to kind of banish these things. And when she suddenly dies, his father decides that he will not have this anymore, and he blocks his son's abilities from being able to be used so his father can prevent the same fate of his mother on his son. And in doing so, an evil spirit starts to take over the complex, his friends and family, and it soon becomes apparent that Iqbal is the only one that can save them all. But he doesn't have any powers. So what do? Now, this one feels a lot like a lot of other films that I've seen. The thing that you're going to see in this movie is familiar stuff from other much better films, in my personal opinion. I can see why Shudder picked this up because it kind of seems within that vein, but upon watching it, there is just a lot of gripes I had more than the good parts that I saw in the film. Now, there were a few parts in the film that really went there with some like graphic kind of violent gore. One part involving like a scene with Iqbal eating something that was really kind of wild, and I was like, okay, that's cool, like that's pretty neat, like what's going on here? But all the supernatural elements that are going on in this seem to come at a rapid pace, which, you know, you may think hearing that, oh, well, there's a lot of stuff going on in this movie. A lot of these Indonesian films that I've seen have that same kind of build, but this one just kind of jumps at it. Like, it just throws everything at you without any kind of nuance, any kind of build up, any kind of like lead in to the scare. It just kind of throws it at you kind of sloppily and kind of carelessly, as if that's just enough to make you get to the end of the movie, instead of luring you along and kind of making you feel those scary moments that you should be feeling with a film of this nature. This has like a lot of demonic stuff, a lot of supernatural, seeing ghosts and like crazy stuff, and it just kind of felt ham-fisted. Like, it didn't feel like a horror movie even. I wasn't in any way, shape, or form in suspense. It was just kind of like, eh. And I will say, you know, the movie is a smaller budget film in some regards, but, you know, I watch a lot of small budget films, and I've seen a lot that have done a lot with very little, and this one gets really hokey. Like, there's some practical effects in this. Got to give them to him for that. But they also use some CGI in here that really just didn't mix too well with it. And I've seen that in other films that remind me of this, but they did it much better than this film. Like, there's this monster in the film, this creature, this sort of entity that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense as to where it came from. And I'll be honest, I really don't need to know all the time all those kind of answers. Some people will definitely hate this film just because it doesn't answer anything. I'm okay with that sometimes, as long as you give me the scares and you lure me into these corners where there's no way out, and I feel the suspense, the scares, and everything that should go along with a horror movie, especially one that's kind of trying to push through the atmosphere with some sort of over-the-top extreme moments. And instead of those moments being extreme and kind of like shocking, they were just kind of hokey and kind of dumb and silly a little bit. Like there was some moments in the film that I was just kind of taken aback, but then I kind of laughed a little bit. And it's not that it's just because I have shitty humor or something like that. It's just, it didn't feel authentic. Nothing in this movie feels authentic. The relationships, the characters, the protagonist doesn't feel like a character that I would want to care about. The characters around him are like the moment that I started to like this character was when he and this other girl named a boy, literally a boy, who is pretending to be a boy for some reason in the movie, and that really doesn't spoil a damn thing. We find out later on why, I'll just say that, but it doesn't really make sense up until the very, very end, and even then it's just kind of like, But there's so much going on that characters I didn't really feel attached to. And this movie isn't an English spoken movie. It has subtitles, which may be a downfall for some people. For me, I don't mind that kind of stuff, and I can usually kind of sense the acting through it, but there is a level of acting that people can kind of get away with when you don't speak their language 100%. And this kind of acting felt really off. Like it didn't feel, like I said, authentic. So I had some real troubles with that in this movie. Even though there were some moments in the film that were like admirable and like I could see them being kind of interesting steps, and they did some interesting things in the movie to make it. It was like there was like the camera work needed more. Like it just, this whole movie feels like it needed much more care, like much more like something to give it like what it needed to be. Like it had this potential and it just kind of fumbles it with its inauthenticity and its acting and sort of, I don't know, some of the deaths were kind of laughable, and I can forgive, like I said, I can forgive these movies that are a little bit on the smaller budget, but this one just failed for me in so many ways that I kind of like, it took about 45 minutes to get to a part that I actually liked. And that was that part I was talking about in the beginning, but 45 minutes to that. And then by the end of the movie, I was just kind of ready for this one to be over. And how it ended, I mean, it's kind of dark and messed up. The story is messed up. The ideas are there, but the execution for this film is just not what it needed to be the film that it was. There are some ideas that if they were given the right soil, which is funny enough because in this movie, one of the characters has a huge array of flowers that he feeds like weird shit. And that's a whole part of this whole story that you don't really understand, which yes, the name of the movie does have something about a blood flower and things, but it's so loosely related, and I don't know. It just didn't seem very integrated into the movie like I was expecting. Just so many things that are going on. You're kind of like, okay, what is happening? And do I care enough to even care what's happening at this point? I don't mean to rag on a movie. I hate that. I try to be as open and honest as possible in all these kind of films. And I love foreign films from different countries. I watch a ton of them. I never have any kind of issues with anything. Like I'm fine with subtitles. I'm fine with all of that. But this one just kind of fell short, and you can tell. It feels like it was a decent idea, and it could have grown into this really interesting idea. There were some different things that they did in the film, but it wasn't enough to save this movie from its inauthentic moments. And I think it just became kind of laughable in a lot of parts, and I just kept rolling my eyes a couple of times. And maybe this just isn't the film for that director. Maybe there will be better films in the future, and because I can see the creativity is there. It's just not a movie for me. And I think a lot of people are going to struggle with it. But there are some people that really just kind of wanted to dig in. But I feel like it could have been a lot more than it was. And it just feels like it could have been so much more. Kind of disappointing, So I think I would probably give this movie like a 3.5 out of 10. Like, this is not what I expected at all of this movie. And my expectations really don't matter. But I could see what this movie wanted to go for. And it just didn't get there. But I don't know. What do you think? Maybe this is a movie for you. I would lower my expectation levels to a smaller kind of reasonable thing, and just understand that this is a very low budget film. Trying to be a big budget film doesn't really execute everything as well as it could. You can watch the film now. It's up on Shudder. So if you want to check it out, I'll put a link down below for you to just click on it for your desktop. But yeah, that's about all I have to say about the film, but maybe you will enjoy it. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Did you watch this movie already? Have you watched the trailer and are interested and are kind of seeing if this is worth your time? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. We got more reviews on the way. I just got some stuff in the mail. I'm also going to be doing a Ghoulies 2 review. If you've not seen the Ghoulies 1 4K review, please do. YouTube is kind of screwing me on the algorithms this week. I don't know why. So if you can help out, please do watch that video. But other than that, thank you guys so much for coming by and supporting this channel. It really, truly means the world to me, and I thank you for all of you. But thank you, and as always, long live the void.